I did have a question from one of our patrons from earlier, and it's really more about the whole business of recirculating oxalate, I'll say. So let's just go through this a little bit because there's multiple ways where we could be dealing with perhaps oxalates being moved from one area of the body to another. And could we end up sort of having it moved to another set of tissues or something rather than leaving the body? So I'm going to say, first of all, unlike with heavy metals, where that is a really big, significant concern, there's not an indication at this point that we have that level of concern with oxalate. And I don't know if this has more to do with what cell transporters move it or the fact that it takes energy. So it's like a deliberate action that kind of gets oxalate where it goes, or if it has to do with the fact that oxalate gets secreted out. And so usually we're moving it, I'm going to say again, deliberately. And I'm not sure if that's exactly the same with heavy metals. But that said, if oxalate's mobilized and you mobilize it into the bloodstream as a baseline, let's say, and it's circulating around in the bloodstream, could it inadvertently be taken up into other tissues? Yes, I'd say that's possible. We don't have research to say that it's a big deal, but I would say it's possible. And I think that when you move oxalate out, the faster it gets to the outside of the body, the better. So that's kind of what I would say is kind of the baseline here. So let's say a big wave of oxalate hits your system and your kidneys are top of their game and you're clearing that wave in maybe 3 days to a week. I don't think you're necessarily uptaking that all over the place because oxalate's not any cell's first choice. The cell's looking for bicarbonate, it's looking for sulfate, it's looking for chloride, it's looking for some other kind of nutrient. So we're not necessarily indiscriminately taking it up in another set of tissues. But we do know that oxalate does get another kick at the can when it gets freed up from tissues and into the bloodstream. So could it irritate things? Could it be taken up where you have inflammation someplace else? Yes, it could. I have not seen that stop anybody from actually getting to the other side of, sort of getting proper balance back into their body so that there's much lower levels of oxalate, which might be on board, and you've got really good efficiency with the kidneys and the other exit routes that it's not staying and accumulating anymore. And we have to also understand that the body has more than one route to get rid of it. So you can actually be moving oxalate out through the mucous membranes in the sinuses, for instance, or the mucous membranes in the lungs. So phlegm can be a source of oxalate because of the kinds of cell transporters we have in the lungs. And everybody's had the experience of postnasal drip or something else where that phlegm's not moving out where you'd want it to move out. It's going down your throat, right? We've all been there. So the good news is once you're down into the gut, if that oxalate is bound with minerals, it's more likely to leave with the stool. You're not as likely to soak it up. The other thing, though, is that if it's freely available oxalate and we're taking in minerals regularly, again, it's more likely to get bound to minerals in the gut and leave that way. And the body can actually secrete directly into the gut. So there's some indication that we can end up with things like ileal stones. So stones in the small intestine, and that can be related to being, really serious issues with oxalate, like primary hyperoxaluria. But we're secreting oxalate out of the bloodstream to try and get rid of it into the gut. So the body's got more than one route you can get rid of things. And these routes, they can recirculate. You could absorb oxalate back from the gut back into your body. But the less irritated the gut is over time, the less likely that you have a leaky gut, then the less likely that you're pulling this stuff inadvertently into your body.